Hello, and welcome to today's event featuring Marshall Shore. I am Brenda Holt with the Arizona State Office of AARP. We are the nation's largest nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to empowering people 50 and older to choose how they live as they age. With a nationwide presence of nearly 38 million members across the nation and approximately 900,000 right here in Arizona, we work to strengthen our communities and we advocate for what matters most to our families, such as health security, financial stability, and personal fulfillment. During the month of March, we will focus on managing debt, maximizing savings, and increasing retirement. AARP can help you make sure your money lives as long as you do by helping you save money, pay down debt, and maximize benefits. We have the resources, expert content, and tools for consumers to manage debt and deal with unexpected expenses. We also have resources to help you plan for retirement and ideas to help increase your short and long term savings. Visit us at aarp.org/money tools to learn more. Thank you again, and with that, I will turn it over to Marshall.
Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary folk, welcome to the show. Get ready to meet your host for the night, Arizona's very own hip historian himself, Marshall Shore.
Well, hello and good evening. I want to welcome you all to Arizona History Happy Hour. Oh, we've got a great show for you this evening. Oh, just wait. We're going to have so much fun. I want to say thank you for being here. My name is Marshall Shore. I am your host of Arizona History Happy Hour. And so one of the things I always love to do is just welcome folks. And, I know we have folks who are watching on YouTube, Twitch, a couple of folks are doing LinkedIn, Facebook, even YouTube, where everything is archived on YouTube. So you can go back and watch prior episodes, which is always a lot of fun to kind of revisit some of those things. Now, I always love to kind of start off some history or what is going on today, being March 16th of 2023. So on this date back in 1961, Mahalia Jackson, that icon of gospel, was performing at Window Rock. She had just come from Phoenix Union High School where she'd done a concert, and she was performing right there. That would have been so much fun to see. Now, it is also Orange and Lemon Day, but not necessarily here in the US. It's actually a London-based holiday, which is about a church that when the bells are restored, it plays a child song called Lemons and Oranges, or Oranges and Lemons. And it's all about friends sharing citrus. And that's, it's such an Arizona thing. We might want to pick up that holiday as well. It is also Black Press Day because on this date back in 1872, Freedom's Journal went to press, which was the first Black newspaper in the country. Now, I also want to give a shout out to our own Elizabeth Montgomery, who recently had her award-winning documentary showing up in an indie film festival locally on Black in the Newsroom. It is also National Panda Day. It's a day for us to celebrate those fluffy bamboo munching creatures. Now, one of the things I didn't know was that a bamboo year is equivalent to 3 human years, which I found pretty cool. And, that's not shocking because pandas pretty much all they do is eat and sleep. So I hope maybe you get a chance to have a day of nothing but eating and sleeping to celebrate Panda Day. Now, it is also Robert Hutchings Goddard Day. He developed back in 1926 the first rocket fuel. So he is the father of modern American rocketry and space age for us all. It is also Freedom of Information Day because back in 1751, former President James Madison was born. He was the father of the Constitution and was very much into individual rights and freedom of information at its highest, even back in the 1700s. I think that's pretty cool. So what can you expect from tonight's show? Well, we have a little bit of trivia coming up. We have Amazing or Little Arizona, as well as some music history, as well as From the Vault, which is something you might drive by or maybe something you'll want to drive by, as well as a beverage. And of course, we have an oh so special guest. Now I see Todd and Anders have found the chat, so great to see you. Now, if this is your first time watching, you might wonder, who is that man and why is he on my screen? Well, I got here 23 years ago from Brooklyn. I was in this amazing Carnegie building, but decided to trade all that snow, that wind, that slush for a little library in South Phoenix, which had a rich oral tradition of the community. And so that got me looking at Arizona through stories. We promptly moved into a beautiful 1956 ranch that's pretty much still original. Why, there's what my kitchen looks like today. All that buttercream yellow tile with matching appliances that all still work. As soon as we got here, all kept hearing about how there was no history here. But I knew that wasn't true because every time I would go anywhere, whether it was on a bike, in a car, on a bus, on a train, I kept meeting so many amazing people, places, and finding stories. And so that's why we're here today. Now, I'm also called the Hip Historian because I get to play with Arizona history. I also do some stuff with Local Buzz, and there'll be more coming up on that. And probably the biggest news of the day is if you were watching Channel 10 News about 30 minutes ago, you saw us on Channel 10 promoting Arizona Unzipped, a burlesque show that talks about Arizona history at the Orpheum. It's the first time in almost 90 years where there has been burlesque show at the Orpheum. So that's going to be a lot of fun. If you'd like tickets to that, you can go to Arizona Unzipped or azunzipped.com and get more information there. Now, I see several of you have already found the chat. You can also reach out to me through other methods. Say the show is done and you have a great idea for somebody. Because, I love hearing from you all. That's how I get some of my best ideas or guests. So now, of course, it would not be a happy hour without a beverage. And so, because we're having a little bit of a Walter vibe tonight, we are having the Palamo Claro, which is from Walter Studios' late night menu. And I don't think that's giving away any trivia. We'll see, although you might want to take note of where it's from. And so let's see how my bartender is doing with that little bit of mezcal, some grapefruit and some lime. Oh, and there he is, being all quiet. And, and PJ just makes it so easy. So all I have to do is just dump it into my glass. And there I am, a little Palermo Claro. All right, so cheers. Nice. Ooh, tart and refreshing. Very good. All right. So, a little town in Arizona. I thought it was kind of fun that you could go see Mahalia Jackson in Window Rock, Arizona. So I figured, a lot of people may not know that much about Window Rock. So I was like, let's talk about Window Rock. Now, it was basically became the seat of the Navajo Nation back in 1936, has a population of just under 2,500. It's up in Apache County, almost on the border of New Mexico, and is pretty much named for this hole in the rock or that window in the rock. Now, one of the things I love is that this small park was established just soon after the town was kind of founded back in 1936. The Veterans Memorial was started back in 1995 and really honors those code talkers that use the Dene language to communicate. And so It is said that they helped us win the war because their code was never broken. You can also go visit the Navajo National Cultural Museum, which you can go explore the rich and unique history of the Navajo people through maps, artifacts, works of art that help tell so many stories. Now, just not far from there, actually just behind it, you're going to find the library. And today they are celebrating Read Across America. I kind of wish that was virtual. That would have been kind of fun to tune into. As well as not far from there, you can visit the Hubble Trading Post, which is the oldest trading post and still operating on Navajo territory. When I was up there last, they had Arbuckle coffee, which I hadn't heard of before, but it was started back just after the Civil War by two brothers, and they invented the whole idea of roasting beans and selling them by the bag. Before that, you would just buy green beans and have to roast them yourself in a skillet. I wouldn't have done very good at that. So they came up with that idea. The family kind of got rid of everything in the 30s. The brand has been brought back using air roasting, which they tried to perfect back in 1914, but they are doing that now since the mid 70s. So get yourself a cup of coffee. And this coffee was so synonymous with the Southwest that some people didn't even know there was any other kind of coffee around. All right. Well, now is the chance here at Arizona History Happy Hour where you get to hear from someone else other than just me. All right. So there we go. Oh, wait a minute. We got Bob on there. We don't need him on there. All right. Well, hello, Kirk.
Well, hey, how you doing, Marshall?
I am good. And yourself?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me on the show.
I am so happy you're here. And so what is your beverage of the evening?
Well, thanks for having the Palermo. I love that drink too, but I'm having a Just Be Nice, which is an American amber that we brew down at Walter Station.
Indeed. So so tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been in Arizona for about 30 years. I came here to do my family practice residency training, and I grew up in Iowa and had actually never been out of the state of Iowa more than about 2 weeks at a time until I got here. And I was interviewing for different spots in the Southwest where I wanted to do my training, and it was 14 below zero when I left the Des Moines airport. I showed up here. A friend picked me up in a red convertible with a cooler full of beer in the back and took me to one of the lakes. I don't even know which one it was at this point. And I said, I'm never going back to Iowa for another winter, no matter what. And that's how I ended up here. And I worked at the Scottsdale Memorial. At that time, it wasn't Honor yet, Scottsdale Memorial Hospital at Osborne.
Wow.
Yep.
So welcome to the sun. I mean, you know, I think some people here because of the warm weather.
Absolutely. And so I came here for training and fell in love with Arizona. My wife, Mary, is also a physician, and we have 2 daughters, and we've just had the best time living here. We have an amazing life. So happy to be part of this community, and really Walter's about building community. And so we've been working on that for quite some time.
You know, I find it so amazing. This place has a way of getting under your skin.
It does.
And just not letting go.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, you know, the first drive up to Flagstaff and seeing all the different types of ecology and all of the amazing plants that so unlike where I grew up. Not that Iowa isn't beautiful, but Arizona is special. Oh, no question. No question.
Indeed. I mean, I love it's like, you mean the fact that we've got like the Black Mountains, the White Mountains, and so much more.
Right. The Red Rocks of Sedona, and the Red Rocks are everywhere. So
exactly. All right. Well, we've got some trivia. Now, our trivia here is not like every other else's trivia. So what we do here is we have our trivia. It's multiple choice. And The beauty of it is unlike bar trivia, where it's like all we care about is do you know the answer, yes or no, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the answers. And so that's where all the fun comes in. So even if you don't know the answer, just guess, because that's where the fun really happens. And you can keep track of your score yourself, where no one's going to grade you. I know if Anita's watching, she's got a special notebook she does it in. So, however you want to do it, some folks keep track of their trivia in the chat. It's all good. And it's all about let's have some fun and let's learn. All right. So our first question. Oh my gosh, who is Walter? That is a good question. Is it A, a local physician, B, the owner of Walter Productions, C, a fire truck, or a film and recording star? So who do you think Walter is? It's one of those options. At least one of those options. All right, question 2. Before becoming the world's largest Volkswagen bus, where did Walter work? Was it A, Luke Air Force Base, B, the Sperry Corporation, C, Northern Arizona fighting wildfires, or D, the Gold King Mine, or E, all of the above? Oh my gosh, that's such a long list. So which one do you think Walter did before? All right. Question 3. Walter the Bus started out as a project for what? A Metro Center Art School, B, a large group vacation, C, Burning Man, or anchoring a strip mall? So which one of those things do you think Walter started out as a project for? All right, question 4. Walter Productions has which venue? A, Walter Dome, B, the Walter Station Brewery, C, Walter Warehouse, or D, Walter Studios, or E, all of the above? And I think that deserved a drink. All right. Question 5. The Walter Dome was on the grounds of the historic A, Legend City, B, Park Central Mall, C, Ponderosa Lumberyard, or D, Luke Air Force Base? So where do you think Walter Dome was on the grounds of? All right. Question 6. The Walter Station Brewery is housed in the historic A, Tempe Stockyards, B, Jackson Street Warehouse District, C, Sky Harbor's retired Fire Station 29, or D, the basement of the Sun Mercantile Building? Oh, I wonder if there's any tunnels down there. All right, moving on to question 7. Originally, the Walter Warehouse was what? A, a paper factory, B, a citrus packing plant, C, rendering works, or D, a fireworks plant? Oh, those are all really good options. Oh my gosh. All right, so which one of those? So Walter Warehouse was what originally? All right, question 8. Walter Studios on the 7th Avenue and Roosevelt was the home of what? A, Canyon Records, B, Canyon Films, C, Telemation, or D, Great Scott Productions, or E, all of the above? All right, coming up to question 9. Who was the first person to record at Canyon Records? A, Frank Sinatra, B, Ed Lee Nate, C, Stevie Nicks, or D, Buck Owens? So who was the first person to record at Canyon Records? Question 10. How many Walter Airport fire trucks does Walter Productions have? That's a tongue twister. I'm glad I didn't have too many Palermos before that. Otherwise, it would have been like blah, 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 blah. So, all right. So is that answer A1, B2, C3, or D4? All right. But we're not stopping there. We've got a couple more questions. What university has Walter worked with to produce one-of-a-kind flame effects? Was that A, ASU, B, UCLA, C, Purdue, or D, MIT? Oh, again, all really good options. All right, and our last question. What are the first 3 Walter rules? A, show up, B, be nice, C, clean up your shit, or D, all of the above? That one might not be so difficult for people to guess, but if you don't know it, just take a stab at it. All right, so while you're locking in your final answers, we are going to talk a little about some Arizona music. And so one of the things that might be fun is with Canyon Records. So this is Black Lodge Singers. This is their 6th Grammy nomination with Canyon Records for their latest recording, Relatives, My Relatives. It was nominated for Best Regional Roots category. Now, Canyon has earned 2 gold records for Native American music, 22 Grammy nominations, and 1 win. They also have won 4 Indie Awards through the Grammys for Independent Record Label, and as well as 25 NAMIs, or the Native American Music Awards. Now, Canyon started way back in the 50s. They have been also not just working to preserve those traditional sorts of music, but also working to develop and record and document new indigenous music, such artists as Louis Goni, Cheevers Topa, Alex Smith. They continue to still work with folks like Black Lodge Singers, recording that powwow music or ceremonial music. And, I think what's interesting is they are now just working with their back catalog, and there's a new group in town called Buffalo Jump Records that is still working with that new music and continuing on that tradition of documenting that music. So there you go, a little kind of background on Canyon Records and kind of what they're doing now. So who's ready for some answers? I'm sure Todd is. He's probably hoarse by now, yelling all those answers. All right. So, Kirk, who is Walter?
He's a 1963 Walter Airport crash truck that was built really to have one purpose and one purpose only. It's really like a 4-wheel drive fire extinguisher on wheels. And I happened to learn about 2 things in the same day. The first was about, this is maybe about 15 years ago or so, I learned about Burning Man and that there was such a thing as Burning Man. And somebody told me that there was also this thing that was done there, which was to build mutant vehicles or large art cars. And later that day, I actually met Walter, this airport crash truck. And this was when I was up at the Gold King mine up in Jerome at a Volkswagen bus show, the Jerome Jamboree, which has been going on for about 30 years. And my life changed after I met that fire truck.
That's really funny.
And it's 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago now.
So is that the brand name of it, Walter?
Yeah, so Walter actually was a 100-year-old motor truck company. So it was started by a gentleman with the last name of Walter who made the machines that made candy. And back in the late 1800s, there were a lot of people who ended up creating their own brand of car. So this guy built a car, And over the next 100 years, that company actually evolved to doing heavy-duty four-wheel drive vehicles for mining, for timber, for snow plows. And they happened to also innovate around airport crash trucks. And so they built very fast, very light, heavy-duty machines that could drive within a foot or so of a flaming fuselage with the sole purpose of discharging foam about 10 times the volume of the vehicle in 1 minute to put out the fuselage and save the people that were in there. Walter had one job, which was to save lives.
Wow. And I would say is still doing the same thing, just in a different way.
Yep, saving lives from boredom and from lack of inspiration.
Indeed. All right. So you talked a little bit about, so before becoming the world's largest VW bus, where did Walter work?
So
he was busy.
Yeah, he was. He started out in 1963 at Luke Air Force Base. He then moved on to the Sperry Corporation and was on their test flight runway. After that, he ended up, his company, the Walter Motor Truck Company, was starting to kind of slow down, and the writing was on the wall that at some point they were going to close down. But they actually lasted about 100 years. But in that time, towards the end, he ended up, because he was four-wheel drive, could carry water, ended up as a fire truck. And then he ended up as a basically playground equipment, because the reason why Walter ended up at the Gold King mine, which is like it's an antique trove of old heavy machinery, is he wouldn't start one day. And when your company that built you is out of business and you're basically become obsolete, and a fire truck that won't start is really worth its weight in scrap. So that's how he was sold for $600, ended up at the Gold King mine, and kids climbed all over him, and he sat there and was just waiting for the next chapter of his life.
Wow. I mean, talk about having a whole resurrection and a whole new life.
Yeah, Walter is a lot of what we talk about are second chances. And Walter, with the help of his friends, has had this incredible second life of, he's worked at Google and SpaceX and Twitter, and he's gone to all these amazing festivals all over, and he has so many friends, and he exemplifies for us that no matter where you're at or what situation, there's a second chance waiting there if you can take it.
Indeed. Okay, so Walter the Bus started as a project for what?
So the same day that I met Walter, I learned about Burning Man, and it took 10 years or so before we actually were able to get Walter down the mountain, and we were able, with, as I said, the help of his friends, to do a conversion where we took his old body off. He's all made of aluminum, both his body and his chassis, so that he's light and quick. And we put an aluminum body on him and made him look like the world's largest Volkswagen bus. When I first saw him, he looked like a Volkswagen bus. He was relatively short. The engine was in the rear, giant tires relative to the length of the vehicle. And that's basically the same shape. And that's how he became Walter.
And as you can see, lots of people riding him out onto the playa, and who knows where else.
Right. Yeah, this Walter company was really incredible. In the 1920s, on the East Coast, they had electric semis that were driving loads around in major cities in the East Coast. Well before, now we think of Tesla coming out with electric semis.
But it's so funny that it's not a new idea. It's already been
1920s they were doing it.
Wow, look at Walter. I mean, looking into the future.
Yep, absolutely.
That's amazing.
So Walter's been to Burning Man 12 times.
Wow. That's amazing. All right. So you have Walter, this really big Volkswagen bus.
Yep.
And so that's now grown into Walter Productions, which has a venue or two or three or four.
Right. Yeah, it all started at the Walter Dome, and a group of friends, and and volunteers really started to make this conversion. And it turned out we just loved hanging out together, and we started working throughout the year, not just going to that event out in the desert in Nevada. And so out of that has grown everything that is Walter. I'm sitting at the studios of the Walter Hive, which is the 501c3 not-for-profit, where we do work with kids and adults for helping them with self-expression in the arts and technology and fabrication. Walter Productions, Walter Station Brewery, and then these venues, the Walter Warehouse and Walter Studios, all came out of this small group of friends who are pretty unrelenting in their desire to continue to express themselves, create art, and try to make the world a better place.
Well, I know even during COVID, you guys were still doing art workshops virtually.
Yeah,
which was a lot of fun.
Probably within a week or two of when you started this show, we started where I'm sitting right now. We turned all of our face-to-face programming, which was done in the Walter Dome, into online programming, and we just delivered hundreds and hundreds of these online art programs. Yeah, sometimes something as terrible as the pandemic can help you to grow.
Indeed, and here is my little tessellating piece from when I did that workshop online. I was like, I know it's here somewhere. I just saw it the other day. So yeah. All right. All right. Walter Dome was on the grounds of what?
So the Mason family owned and owns today Ponderosa Lumber, and we just needed a place to build Walter. And so we found this place in South Scottsdale. Most of the family-owned lumber yards went out of business when Home Depot and Lowe's started selling low-cost lumber. And but the folks at Ponderosa Lumber have thrived. First, they had land, so they started renting space out to artists, which included us. And then they started doing door and window replacements. Next, they started doing micro manufacturing. Right now, some of the technology that they have here at this facility, really incredible in what they're able to make. And so from my perspective, that Ponderosa Lumberyard is still around, is so inspiring. It just shows evolution. It shows the really the willingness to evolve, and they inspire us every day.
Well, and just like Walter, I mean, so progressive and not doing status quo.
Yep.
Of pushing at those boundaries of what's next.
Right.
That's really cool. All right, so Walter Station Brewery is housed in what historic structure?
So it's kind of funny. Walter is an airport crash truck, and somehow we happened to purchase from the city of Phoenix Sky Harbor's original airport fire station. So now we have airport fire truck, and we have this airport fire station. It's just north of the runways. And back in the day, in the 60s, they used to drive out of there and drive down the street on 41st Street and head right down on the runway. Unfortunately, airport fire trucks and other fire trucks kept getting bigger, and they would no longer fit in. So it became part of their social service support system, and then it became retired. And so we were lucky enough to be able to purchase it, and now we have an airport fire station.
Oh, so did Walter live there?
Nope. He never crossed paths with that building. But
wow.
But it's pretty bizarre that we would have airport
exactly that. I mean,
airport fire station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Walter Studios on 7th Avenue in Roosevelt was home of where? A, Canyon Records, Canyon Films, Telemation, and Great Scott Productions. Oh my gosh.
So for many years, Walter, we developed this large fleet of vehicles, and we started touring. And that was when we started going to big festivals and working for SpaceX and Twitter and Google and all these like big corporate events. And we got tired on the road, so we decided we were going to start putting our roots down in Phoenix. That's when we bought the fire station. We also bought the Great Scott Studios, which happened to be the original home of Canyon Records and Canyon Films back in the late 40s and early 50s. And almost everything that Walter has and all of our creations are something old that has historic value, but maybe is kind of forgotten, and then apply art and an artistic overlay and apply a lot of technology to it. And that's the history of Walter Studios at 7th Avenue and Roosevelt. It's a really amazing history, rich in the expression of native arts and the sharing of that widely. Really, the first place in the country that did that.
Well, and so they were also, so that was Ray Boley who started that.
Right.
And he also did the first stereo recording and broadcast in Arizona.
Wow.
It was the early 50s. Was it? Yes, it was the early 50s. And so it was the ASU Orchestra. And so they had 2 radio stations. So they had 2 microphones. And since they had that, they automatically had a stereo track.
Right.
So thereby creating the very first stereo recording in Arizona.
Yeah. He was an innovator, and his recognition that that native voices were not being recorded, other than like the Smithsonian would do studies and record traditional native music, but he saw something more, and I think the continued success of Canyon Records is pretty amazing.
Well, you've got in the history of Canyon Films. You could easily do an entire, book on Canyon Records and the history and the films they were a part of and the commercials and things like that.
So really the public was not in that building at 7th Avenue and Roosevelt over its 80-year life. It was really an industry building. No signage, very kind of undercover, and a lot of people who were in the industry would go and either do filming or recording in there, but the public hadn't really been in there. So it's been really fun to do what Walter does, something old, kind of forgotten, because even the tax incentives had gone out the window until this year for many years. So the film and recording industry was hamstringed, really. Right. And so really nobody wanted big studios, like this. But we saw the beauty and the history of that place, applied an artistic overlay, a lot of technology, and then share it with everyone. That's what Walter does.
Indeed. And then, all right. So we also have, what was Walter Warehouse?
So it's a 45,000 square foot facility, beautiful bow truss construction from probably the 30s. And paper used to be king, right, Marshall? There was no computers. Paper was everything. Even when I started as a physician, we were using still long ledger books to keep track of healthcare expenditures and things like that. So paper was everything. So the Zellerbach Paper Company used that facility to bring in large, high volume, giant rolls of paper, and then would process it and redistribute it from that facility.
Wow. And it's such a beautiful building. And you're right. Those trusses are just outstanding.
Yeah, the Walter Dome is the same bow truss construction, and it's 1/6 the size of that area of the warehouse.
Now, I think we may have gotten a little sidetracked, but here we are back on track. And so who was the first person to record at Canyon Records?
So Edley Nate, a Navajo singer. And it's interesting, the picture that you have there, that is actually a picture of his grandson. He photoshopped himself into the picture with his grandfather. We actually happened to find this picture, contacted Aaron Nate, And Aaron came as we were doing the construction on the warehouse and was able to stand right where his grandfather had recorded, and really helped us kind of settle into that space, and be very respectful and have honor for everything that had happened there. He always wanted to meet his grandfather, but never did. So that outfit is really him wanting to travel through to the future and to meet his grandfather, travel back into
Right.
time.
No, that's really cool. So that photo, I mean, just tells, I mean, again, that photo is worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we know you've been obsessed with Walter Airport fire trucks. How many does Walter Productions now have?
So we have 3. That giant Beetle is a 1959 Walter Airport fire truck. The bus is a 1963 Walter Airport fire truck. And the one with the horns and what that large cylinder is the world's largest combustible vortex ring generator, which makes like 15-foot diameter rings of propane fire. And that's a 1978 Walter fire truck. So we were driving down from Jerome. So Walter the bus was up kind of with all these old vehicles, and every year he would have to sit and watch all of these Volkswagen buses come and hang out and have this amazing weekend called the Jerome Jamboree. And after we created Walter as a bus, he got to drive up that hill and actually have he got to be in there with all of those buses. But unfortunately, on his way down one year, he blew his engine. Big Red the Beetle donated his 1959 engine, which are a very rare type of engine that Walter is still driving. And we saved Heathen, the one that shoots fire, from the scrappers out of a small town in Ohio called Heath, Ohio.
Wow. Again, still saving that history and giving things a second chance.
Yep, that's right. We all deserve a second chance, Marshall, right?
Indeed. All right. What university has Walter worked with to produce one-of-a-kind flame effects?
So one of our the people that go to Burning Man might surprise you who's there. One of the professors in aeronautical and astronautical engineering at Purdue is one of our campmates, and through him, we've had 5 classes at Purdue where they've designed in collaboration with us, built, and then tested at Burning Man really amazing flame effects. So it's Purdue.
And that's so funny because that's my alma mater, and it's so funny because it's such a conservative school back in the day that it's great to see them kind of branching out. And I mean, engineering was always their forte. That was not my major, but
I can tell you the students like to take our class because at the end they come with us and surprise and thrill people with their creations. It also is at the foundation of the safety that we employ with any of the things that we do. Safety first, really.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then here we are at our very last question. What are the first 3 Walter rules?
Well, you got to show up, right? You have to every day, and show up as your best self. Be nice. I hope that anyone who's interacted with Walter and the community gets that. It's being respectful to one another. It's not being a pushover, but it's being respectful and being kind. And so Mary named this beer Just Be Nice. And then cleaning up your shit. The thing behind that at Burning Man is it's a leave no trace event. So at the end of that event, we're down on our hands and knees picking up pieces of glitter if they happen to have been left in that desert. And it's left every year in the condition that we find it. And that's where those first 3 come from.
Right. And that's, I mean, and it's even with like the local Burning Man group down near Wilcox. Sort of,
Yeah.
I mean, that's very much that
Romance.
same thing of where it's like, leave
Absolutely.
it like what you found it. Don't.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard once you've really worked alongside a lot of people in an environment like that. Burning Man's 80,000 people, um, and it's incredibly clean. There's no garbage cans. Burning Man does not put out garbage cans. Whatever you bring in, you take out, and it's really surprising. And it's hard to now after you've been in that environment a few times, like why don't we do that everywhere? And so our team, like at the Walter Studios or Walter Warehouse, but we're always picking up stuff, and it's called MOOP, matter out of place. So if you hear anybody say the word MOOP, it's like we're out mooping, or that's MOOP, or don't MOOP. All of that are matter out of place, and it's I think it's a very good trait.
Indeed, just in life itself.
Yeah, exactly. Now you can take that to, there's a lot of kinds of shit. There's not just matter out of place. You can also say like, clean up your messes. Like, it's that can gain you a second chance sometimes, an apology, forgiving, making it right. I think those are all good traits that go along with the MOOP idea.
Well, and one thing is, I mean, whenever I've been to one of the Walter spaces, the conversations that ensue are just so interesting and unexpected. I mean, that's the thing. You never know quite what topic is going to be popping up. And so it could be science. It could be the latest thing in the headlines. I mean, it's been really a great experience every time I've gone to a Walter event.
Yeah, well, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm looking right over here at the gallery, and I know that was really one of the first times that you and I got a chance to really
Right.
chat, and I've always appreciated your support coming to events. And one of the things is acceptance. So to me, that's part of being nice. Yeah, but it's like everyone has value, and everyone is interesting, and everyone deserves, the ability to express themselves however they do. And I think we did learn that at Burning Man. I'll tell you, I grew up in Iowa, and I'm not sure that I was quite the same person when I was there. And I think I really needed to find Burning Man to actually see on scale self-expression being valued and acceptance of that being universal.
Well, and I think I mean, it's like, and just that acceptance of diverse thought is such an important thing.
No question, no question. Yeah,
So,
and we really can get along. Like we may not be seeing that so much right now, but I've seen it, and I'm sure that you've seen it. We've
oh,
all
very so.
seen that it can work, and you know, we only have so much time on this place, so why not work on important things like being
Right.
kind to one another, working together, solving problems, having people feel welcome and accepted in this world. And so Walter is a fire truck, and Walter is at the core of this because Walter didn't care who you were. If you were in that crashed plane, Walter had only one idea, which was to go and to put out that fire and save you. And Walter also knew how to work with a single firefighter to be able, a duo, human and machine, to do what neither one of them could alone. Drive fearlessly to within a foot of a fire and put the thing out. I mean, yeah, I'm a huge fan of Walter, of him and what he did. The people that have built him and have been part of this community know that there's really something there in that vehicle. There's an idea. There's a way to look at the world. And Walter didn't care who you were. He didn't care. He was going to save you anyway.
Right. He had one task, and that was it.
Yep. Everybody's valuable. Everyone has worth.
Indeed. Well, I always love to ask people how they did. I mean, I have a feeling Todd did really well. but I'm always intrigued to see how other people did. But, I always tell people, it's like, it's not how many things you got right or wrong. It's like, look at the stories. I mean, who knew that Walter the fire truck, I mean, giving him that second chance has changed so many people's lives and enhanced the Valley and Arizona and beyond. I mean, going to so many different events across the country.
Yeah.
So do you drive Walter to all these events?
So I have driven Walter a lot on the 10, on the 202, highway speeds. He's gotten a little older, and we tend to put him on a trailer now. He can dawdle around town, and he's going. The Walter project is a 100-year project, and I want Walter to make it 100 years. So he's getting up there. He's in his 60s. I'd like him to be able to, cruise these next 40 years. So I'm much more gentle on Walter. We blew one engine, terrible situation. But actually, out of that disaster came Big Red, came Heathen, came Purdue, came probably most of the growth that the Walter community has experienced probably came out of when he blew his engine. We thought maybe the whole thing was over. So even the project got a second chance.
That's great. So are there any events coming up where maybe folks could see some of these vehicles firsthand?
Absolutely. So if you go on walterproductions.com, you can see a lot of different events on there. You can also go to walterstudios.com and just see what's happening there. You can go to walterstation.beer, and there's live music there. We just had this amazing concert with the Black Moods there just last week, which is incredible. But the one I really want to tell you about is where it all started at the Walter Dome. The not-for-profit is probably some of the heart and some of the best community service that we do, from high-risk kids to patients with dementia to the general public to everyone in between. We're having our fundraiser called the Big Buzz next Friday, March 24th. So if you go on thewalterhive.org, you can get tickets there. We're on Facebook and Instagram and all that kind of stuff, but these websites make it very easy. The Big Buzz is right back to the core of what Walter is really about, which is service and community and giving people chances. So if you would come to that fundraiser, I would just be so grateful. It's wonderful people, and it's doing great things in our community.
Well, I also saw where you were teaching Girl Scouts to weld.
Yep, welding. Welding is one of our most popular classes. Almost always sells out. You get Girl Scouts get a patch. They come in, learn how to weld, we do everything from laser cutting to screen printing to vinyl cutting to wood shop to welding. There's a lot of different things. Every Wednesday, other than next week because we're getting ready for the Big Buzz, but we have open shop at the Walter Dome. And anybody can come in, use the equipment, work on their own projects, as well as we have lots of different programs that are across all, mostly now face-to-face. We still have some virtual stuff, but it's so great to be face-to-face again, and I'm very grateful to be able to do that. There's always things happening, live music and bands and singer-songwriters at Walter Station, and amazing national and international headliner artists at Walter Studios and at Walter Warehouse. There's always something interesting going on.
And just darn good people.
I think so, anyway. I think so.
Indeed. Well, Kirk, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your passion, your past. And I didn't realize the origin of Walter and how much even just who he is has really energized the entire process of Walter Productions.
No question. Walter started it all. And he's going to be around for 100 years.
And I just love, so when you say it's a 100-year project, so what's next? I mean, if you've got this 100-year project coming up, it's like...
Yeah, and the cool thing is it's actually 100 years from today.
Oh.
Well, tomorrow it's 100 years from tomorrow. And
Okay.
it's
So
kind of a
it's
rolling 100 years. It's
nice. So it's manana.
well, it's like you told me and getting ready for this. History is yesterday, right? So
Very much so. Yeah.
the future is tomorrow, and what it means is it's not about us. It's beyond us, and we're just going to keep watching for opportunities. We're going to keep growing in terms of our understanding of how to play an important role in a community and how to build community and how to help the ideas of self-expression and healing and acceptance. So we got a lot of work to do. It's going to take 100 years.
Well, and I also think that also technology can play a role in that instead of just being seen as a divider, but also as a way to bring people together as well.
No question, no question. At the core, Walter is it's people and machines working together to do things neither one of them could alone. And my background is as a physician, but also as an entrepreneur, and technology has been very important in my development. And I think we can use technology in safe and ways that make this world a better place for many more people. We have just last night, one of our folks showed up at Open Shop, and he has an idea that's intended for the 1 billion people in the world who don't have electricity, and how do they get light at night? And currently, it's through fires and often dangerous burning of materials, and he's looking for something that can be a sustainable decade or multi-decade light source that and to me that's like great use of technology, because it's not equal the way the resources are spread out across this world, and there's a lot of things that could be done to make this world a better place.
Indeed. And thank you for being a part of that, making the world a better place.
Well, same with you. And I think that history is so important in that. And I think from my perspective, you are the guy who is helping bring history into the light. And there's a lot to learn there. And there's a lot that, like you said, today's history tomorrow. So,
I mean, I love that we're able to connect Ray Boley with Burning Man.
Right? He never would have guessed that, probably.
No.
Or maybe he would have.
Exactly. Well, Kirk, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Same to you. And cheers. And thanks everybody who watched tonight. And yeah, this is a great show. And thank you for bringing it to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.
Oh my gosh, Kirk, thank you so much. That was so much fun getting to learn more about the history of Walter and kind of where it's all come from. So I thought what would be kind of fun is, so from the vault, it was like, I didn't realize there was a debate. Well, actually not a debate going on, but sundials right here in Arizona. So you've got the Crave Keep sundial, which was built in 1959 and has been an attraction. And at one point was considered to be, they called it the world's largest. They have backpedaled a little bit. So now let me see if I can get the official quote down. The second largest working sundial in the Western Hemisphere at the time it was built. So back in 1959, it was the second largest in working sundial. And so if you go to a little bit kind of further west, you'll wind up in Sun City at the 1973 sundial that is in the middle of a recreational community where you can go swimming, you can go bowling, you can do all kinds of different activities right there at this sundial. So I thought that was kind of cool that we have two sundials miles apart from each other. And I've been to both of them. I don't have any photos of myself because I think it was before I had a good camera on my cell phone, but I think maybe it's time to make another road trip up there. All right. So now you'll see why I should say, if you're watching on Facebook, you should click on share, because we are just sharing the love. And oh my gosh, thank you, Kirk, so much for doing just that. And now next week, we're going to redo an episode with Ignite, the Sign Art Museum down in Tucson. They were recently featured on the Tucson Tourism Guide that goes out to all the hotels and all the tourists that people should go check out some neon. So we are going to hear from them next week. So that's going to be a lot of fun next Thursday at 7 o'clock. So I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great, now, I love hearing from you all. So please reach out. I always love giving a shout out to Chris and Cole, who did that great video, and PJ for always making sure there's a lovely libation tied to the theme. We've actually been talking about sitting down and actually doing one show with just him, talking about some of his inspiration and some of his ideas of where he gets some of the cocktails. So I really look forward to that. So as we get ready to say goodnight, one of the things I'm going to do is I am going to leave you with, since we were talking about kind of a second life or kind of mashups, we are going to hear a little bit from Walt Disney and a 1955 Nash commercial that was shot up in Sedona, parts of it. So enjoy, everyone, and I will see you all next week.
Pluto, the 55 Nash sure is a beauty.
That's right, Mickey. And it has a new Jetfire V8 engine that really takes off. It's a big, solid car that whips around the sharpest curves. A family car that turns and handles like a dream. And that's not all. Nash has the widest wraparound windshield of all.
Come on, Pluto, old boy. We're going to see the 1955 Nash.
Yes, for 55, come with Nash into a new motoring age. Thrill to brand new power. A new 208 horsepower Ambassador Jetfire V8 engine to give you get-up-and-go performance that commands the American road. There's a new Cenoramic wraparound windshield, widest of any car. And for 55, Nash gives you completely new handling ease. Even on sharpest curves, you'll cling to the road like a streamlined train. Huge Nash deep coil springs, inclined at an angle, work like sea legs to give you greater stability on curves. Ever see a big family car maneuver like this? A big car that could turn like this? Yes, for a totally new driving experience, thrill test the new Nash Ambassador and Statesman at your Nash dealers tomorrow. Another reason why American Motors means more for Americans.